miss TP, man. Miss that guy.
He did a halftime show, right? A Super Bowl halftime show at one point?
I'm sure he did. I know he did. I just don't remember which one exactly.
And not a big
42 guys.
And not a big fan.
42?
For
Really?
a halftime show.
Hey.
I don't think he's got enough entertainment value.
My
Texas
God.
born and bred, man.
All right, anyway.
He is an absolute legend.
Let's go to the guest line for our weekly chat with Tommy Curran from NBC Sports Boston, brought to you by Drains by James, Eastern Mass's top provider of drain and sewer cleaning and repair, by your New England Chevy dealers. Together, let's drive. And Tom E. Curran is powered by Verizon. What's up, TC?
Hey, what's going on? I like Tom Petty a lot, but I kind of agree with you, Andy. That's not really a halftime.
Right.
I mean, I love Tom Petty. Love Tom Petty.
There's a certain vibe and energy I want at halftime, and I'm not sure
Yeah.
he brings it. But anyway, we got a big football game to talk about. So, Tom Curran, if I'm going to start with a matchup that I think is probably the most important in this game, that would be the Patriots' offensive line against the front of those Houston Texans. Coming off the performance of Will Campbell and Jared Wilson last week, how concerned are you with the offensive line right now?
It's a concern, and if I ranked them, I'd probably have them high. But I've seen this movie way too many times before, where we spend a week looking at the unbelievably talented and destructive players on the defensive side and say, oh, my God, what are the Patriots going to do? And forget that they're looking at those players, too, and that they actually, as coaches, have an opportunity to do something about it. So as I think Dante Scarnecchia spoke very well to Karen Garegian about that at Mass Live today. McDaniels will just throw humans at the problem. You can, in my estimation, Andy, and I'm sure you agree, you can give things up in terms of production and moving up and down the field and things you want to do in order to take care of that problem. And you'll happily do that instead of taking the risk and having a game-wrecking play or a player-wrecking play.
Yep.
So I think they're just going to send players at that, and they're going to try and run the hell out of the ball.
That's basically all I was going to ask you, Tom, is what do you think the Patriots' best strategy is against that defense? Because they don't blitz a lot. They play coverage. I mean, how do you see the Patriots moving the football and scoring points against that Texans defense?
It reminds me, Teddy, of the Steelers for so long, with Dick LeBeau as their defensive coordinator. They do what they do. They're extremely aggressive, and you eventually use their aggressiveness against them. And Lassiter. It's not Kwame. It is Kwame?
No.
Anyway, Kamari Lassiter and Derek Stingley Jr. are incredibly aggressive corners. Peter is a very aggressive secondary player as well. So just use that aggressiveness against them by continuing to make them come up, make some short area coverage plays, but then hit them with a double move. It sounds a little bit cavalier on my part. Just, yeah, that's all you do. Oh, why aren't you making $5 million a year as a coordinator, Jimmy? But I think that would probably, Ted, in my time watching, they seem similar to Pittsburgh, which means run, and then try and find Kyle Williams down the field at some point or Kayshon Boutte and wait for the slip-up.
So, Tom, if you had to pick a Patriot not named Drake Maye as your most valuable offensive Patriot Sunday, who would that be?
Probably, and I haven't really investigated and looked at the numbers for tight ends against Houston this season, but I would say Hunter Henry. I think he's fairly indispensable now because he's just their biggest target. Without Matt Collins out there, who had been one of their under-the-radar most important players offensively. And I'm sticking on offense right there, but I would say Robert Spillane and Milton Williams would be 1 and 1A on defense.
Tom Curran, NBC Sports Boston, here on WEEI Afternoons. A lot of people feeling really good about the Patriots' defense after that last performance by Zach Core and company, sort of spinning the dial and confusing the Chargers and pressure and all that. Is that who they are now that they have Spillane and Milton Williams and Landry back? Is that something you think they are capable of doing against C.J. Stroud, who looked very, very human on Monday night?
Yes, and I'm glad you added in against C.J. Stroud because that is something that I think they'll be capable of doing against C.J. Stroud? Would it be possible against Matt Stafford to roll the dice and continue to blitz? Would it be possible against a team with an offensive line as porous as the Chargers was last week? And I don't think Houston is quite that porous. It's week to week, but I would imagine, given the poise or lack thereof that we saw from C.J. Stroud the other night, the Patriots will want to ratchet up pressure, give him things to – Phil Perry had a really good stat today. When Stroud is blitzed, he's very effective. When he's pressured, he's not. And folks might say, what the hell is the difference there? A blitz is 5 or more. Is that right, Teddy?
That's it. You got it. Yep.
Blitz is 5 or more. A pressure is defined as 5, 4, but it really exists in how much heat gets there. So he's fine if he can identify, oh, crap, everybody's up around the line of scrimmage. I know what's going on here. So he's certainly not overmatched at the line of scrimmage. But when pressure comes, and he's a more slight and not very tall guy, I think that a pressure, an unexpected amount of heat, can make him a little bit jumpy.
All right, TC, I'm just curious if you think at all, because I didn't think this at first, and then the more I thought about it, I thought maybe the Texans do have some advantage in the coaching department when you consider, Nick Caley was a former offensive assistant for the Patriots. The wide receivers coach for the Texans, Ben McDaniels is the brother of Josh McDaniels, and then Nick Caserio there. These guys know how Josh thinks, and they can help the defense come up maybe with ideas for a game plan against Josh. Do you think there's an advantage at all, or is that just me overthinking it?
No, I think there could be, but I'd say this. Because the Patriots and Josh play a particular way, which is to be week to week, to change your offense, to be amorphous, to disguise things as well as they do, you get 5 days to really prepare as the Texans. If you're Matt Burke, who I think is their defensive coordinator, do you really want to spend time downloading all the things that you think that Ben or Nick Caley might think that Josh might do when you're not going to be sure because he's so good at disguise, and you're not going to be sure because he changes? So then you're going to spend part of your 5 days saying, well, if he does this, then he might be thinking this. But sometimes when he thinks that, you're going to start thinking that. So I don't think it's as big an advantage just because there's that crossover. I might be proven wrong, but they're so unpredictable, and Josh is so anal about making sure that everything is disguised and he's doing different things all the time, that unpredictability would work against anyone, as would the 5 days of prep that they have.
Yeah, it feels like this might just be more about my strong versus your strong as opposed to Foxborough South versus Foxborough Actual. I'm with you, Tom. Hey, did you get a chance to listen to Mr. Kraft, or RKK as he insisted David and Hoyer call him, on the Quick Snap pod this weekend? If so, what did you think of some of his comments on the idea that it was very expensive to have to move Vrabel in, but it was the best decision he could have made?
Yeah, it's funny. I saw it written up before I watched it, and it's funny. Of course, people seized on that portion of it. But the initial point that he was making wasn't about money. The initial point he was making was about how difficult it was and how crappy it had to feel to go up to a guy, tell him we're moving on from a legend and we think you're the guy. We wanted you to do this. We would like to have it happen later, but we're going to do this now. We're going to give you this opportunity. And then to have every intention of giving the guy the latitude and finally having to say, this isn't working. I mean, it's heartbreaking. So I was more, it had to be hard, but he understood it had to be done, especially with Vrabel out there, with the state of the team. And I do believe the state of the coaching staff / personnel department, where there was a lot of finger pointing going on, it wasn't going to sustain, and they were going to go further down into the tank. It was very unlikely that things were going to drastically improve this year, maybe not even improve at all. So it was a tough thing for him to do. Financially, yeah, it's a good point. And we actually had the conversation on Early Edition last night about whether or not, boy, did Kraft surpass John Henry, as an owner in this context because he's willing to spend the money. I'm like, how can that even be a conversation? Why would they even be in the same universe in terms of ownership? I was gobsmacked by that. I think the Kraft is criminally underrated locally as an owner.
Tom, you know I don't blow smoke often, but you nailed the hell out of it last week when you said, I fully expect Drake Maye to make a mistake, and I fully expect Drake Maye to handle it well, bounce back. Like he did. That's how that game played out.
You did say that.
Now a week later, with a win under his belt, not his best performance, even though the numbers kind of look pretty good on paper in a way.
Yes.
What are you expecting from Drake Maye in particular this week, this challenge, this defense?
His retention and ability to just move on, as I've talked about with you guys, so I don't want to go over the same ground, but his ability to go, yeah, did that wrong, not going to do that wrong again, and he fixes it.
Right. That stove's hot.
A lot of us would be sitting there, navel gazing. He just moves on. So my guess is this week, you might see one of those 18 for 24 or, 15 for 23 for 177 yards, no touchdowns, no picks, just clean. And I think that the Patriots fans should celebrate the fact that they might have a quarterback, and I'm stealing Phil again, we were talking earlier today, the ability to be an amorphous kind of player. There's some weeks where you can be, Kurt Warner in 1999, and there's other weeks where you need to be Tom Brady in 2003 and just get the car into the garage. So I think that will probably be. I don't think May will have the same kind of gaps as he did last week.
All right, TC, I'm curious what you think about the what's going to be an epic game, I think, on Saturday, the Broncos and the Bills. Who do you like in that matchup, and who do you think is the better matchup for the Patriots if they were to advance to the AFC Championship round?
Yeah, that's great. I it's a great game because I do think it's going to be what you say. It's going to be a flawed game between a flawed Bills team with the best player on the field and a great coach in Sean Payton and a very good defense that he has on his side to deploy. So it's a matchup. It's just a great matchup between two sides that are complementary. So I would not be surprised. It's tough to bet against Allen, but I just think there might come a point at which enough is enough, and they've suffered too many injuries. They're not as talented. Their defense is a little bit fossilized. Peyton has had a week to get ready. He's such a good coach in my estimation. Denver most likely, I think. I will probably say like a Denver 24-23 kind of mess.
Tom, just because we have discussed it so much on our airwaves this week, I'd be curious to get your spin on it as well. Did you hear the viral comments from the Jacksonville Jaguars reporter after the Jags were upset by the Bills last Sunday? And what did you think of it as she sort of gave a little pep talk to Liam Cohen in the press room?
Yeah, I heard it. Everybody, look, there's been occasions where I go into a press conference and grab ass around or ask questions that might not specifically be about football or necessarily germane to what everybody else wants to hear. So I'm not going to, cast aspersions. I think personally, that seemed like a personal message but she's, noted as if she was speaking for the community. Look, I didn't think it was great, but it certainly wasn't worth the panty bunching that we saw coast to coast. I was surprised that what germinated the whole conversation was Adam Schefter. Teddy pointed it out to me when we were at last Sunday when we were in the studio. And I looked at him like, Schefter is kind of a big J journalist. And for him to say, this is awesome, seemed weird. It wasn't bad. I would have probably said it on the side, and I certainly have over the course of time said many things to coaches or players that are complimentary on the side. Treat them like humans. Well, I have to work with them. So anyway, I hated the conversation, but I'm glad you asked.
But I'm glad to have it here a few days later. Well said, Tom. Couldn't agree more. Before we let you go, how's this game play out? What's going to happen on Sunday?
Hey, Patriots are actually going. This might. It's going to be a rock fight early. Then they're going to hit some big plays, and then there's going to be some mistakes where C.J. Stroud really gets a little loose with things, and the Patriots.
Oh, my God. The ultimate cliffhanger. That's like one of those TV shows. ...
Bad omen.
What the hell happened? Verizon, I thought we were back up and ready and rolling. Everything was going fine.
He was leaning towards Patriots, though.
I actually think he was going to give a wider margin at the end there because C.J. Stroud was going to make some mistakes late that allow the Patriots to maybe pull away a little bit. Are we getting Tom Curran back? Because I feel like we need this cliffhanger. We got to know what the final score you think. We can't assume what he was going to say.
Tune in tomorrow when we find out
what people think the final score is going to be. Because, I think 17 is the number.
Yes.
If the Patriots score 17 points, I think they win this game.
That's what Schlereth went with, 17-16 Patriots. Yep. And, I think that's fair. I mean, we talked about it earlier, and we'll revisit it in a little bit after we talk to Curran here to get his pick. But the 20-point window, 11 games they've held opponents less than 20 points, the Texans. 9 games they've scored 20 or fewer themselves. So, that 20 is kind of that key number hump barrier up there.
And just to let people know, that defense for the Texans, it affords the Texans to kind of have a lot of mistakes on offense. Yeah. They won that game with 3 turnovers last week, and then the 17th week 17 against the Chargers, C.J. Stroud threw 2 interceptions, and they still won the game. So they can overcome C.J.'s mistakes because how good that defense is.
All right, 617-779-7937. We'll get to your phone calls up next, but right now we get the conclusion of Tom Curran's prediction. What's up, Tom?
It's funny because I just burped out 20-12 at the end, and I said to myself, it's not going to be 20-12. But then I realized that I had dropped off, so now I get to change it. Let's go 23-16 Patriots.
23-16. Ted Johnson just said 17 might be the key number. You get to 17, you win, and your prediction would say that. All right, Tom, we will talk to you next week. Have a good week. Enjoy the game.
Okay, buddy. Have a great weekend.
See you,
Tom.
Thanks, Tom.
Tom Curran, NBC Sports Boston. We got to get to a quick break. We're running a little bit behind here. Up next, your phone calls, breaking down the prediction from Tom Curran and continuing to break down this matchup in which fans feel better and better about the Patriots winning. That's next here on WEEI.